Hey, 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 everybody. Out and about in this beautiful day again. Um, so, yesterday or the other day, I was going through my book of gratitude. So, this is a book that my wife gave me. I think I have it, but I'm not sure. My backpack somewhere. She gave me a book that had these like little kind of daily or weekly, depending on what I want to do, like weekly kind of activity. So it could be like mindfulness or self care, whatever you want to call it. But I call it the Book of Gratitude. So I'm very grateful to have someone in my life that is thinking of me and wants me to like do, just take care of myself in the daytime. I sit at my desk all day and I'm just like, I don't really take a walk every day, and which I need to because that's another one of my big goals is to like lose at least 20 pounds, 25 pounds, as we all, I'm sure. But anyway, so this book I turned to, it was the first time I did it, which was Plan Your First Date. So I had a question, well, actually just an observation about that, and then the question to you guys to say, what was your best first date? Hold on a second, got a little sun action here. Well, it looks a little better. So I was thinking about that. I was like, God, when was my best first date? I can't even remember the best first date I ever had. Um, and of course, you're gonna say, "Oh, with your wife, dummy." No, but like, I mean, like, really, like, what was my best first date? I've had a lot of like kind of so-so dates and awkward dates. But I'm trying to think of the best first date I ever had. So I'll tell you, my first date, the very first date I ever had, was actually with an actress, um, a girl from high school who became an actress. So this is a funny story, actually. It was right around the time that the movie Crush Groove came out, and and that was, if you guys don't know, go into Google and type in Crush with the capital K, Crush Groove, because it was one of those like movies. So back in the '80s, they came out with a series of like movies that were like hip hop induced, but it was like hip hop with like corny scripts and dancing and music, and so Hollywood wanted to cash in on this new hip hop generation. Let's make hip hop movies. So they made, what was it, Beat Street, Breakin', Breakin' Two, Crush Groove. Then like the Fat Boys became like superstars, so they did like all those movies as well. I think Crush Groove was the Fat Boys, right? I don't know. Help me out with that. So yeah, so basically, I really wanted to see this movie. So a bunch of my fellas from school and I decided we were gonna go check out the movie. But at the time, I was really kind of crushing on this one girl. Speaking of Crush Groove, I was crushing on this girl at school. One day, we had like a long conversation in the car. She's like, "What's your name and what do you like to do?" And I was, at the time, I think I was doing music and theater and stuff like that. So I asked this girl to go to the movies with me, and she said yes. And it wasn't, again, like some guys in high school are balling where they have a car or they whatever, but we all took the bus together. So actually, it was me, me, my three friends, and this girl. All right, see if we're still there. Yeah, still there. Okay, great. So anyway, it was a very interesting situation because again, I had never been on a date, and it wasn't like your typical date when you're in your 20s. It's like a very innocent kind of thing. When you're in high school, you're just like, holy crap, we're on a date, and I am eating popcorn next to this girl. So anyway, it was pretty funny. But then I'm trying to think, like, what was another substantial moment where I was actually on a date? You know, one thing I do. Oh, now I get the sun over here. I do think about a lot about me. Is I was a guy that tended to make friends into girlfriends. So one thing that I really appreciated was that I made friends with the girls that I dated first, and then that friendship turned into like kind of a serious kind of thing. And I think that people are interesting because there's a lot of people. Sorry, there's a really weird glare, so I'm going to be in dark, half light. Um, just in my generation, I just noticed that there was a real interesting phenomenon of people not wanting to date someone who they're friends with. And I always thought that that was super silly. I thought that was really ridiculous that um, people did not want to be friends with someone they were dating. Why not? Like, why wouldn't you be friends and get to know them and have stories and, or things that you have in common? And the people who always were like, no, I can't date you. We're friends. I never understood that. Like, why wouldn't you want to be friends with me? Why wouldn't you want to take this to a different level or more intellectual level of connecting? Like, we are now connecting not only on a flirty kind of crush level, but we also understand each other. And so that whole thing was weird to me. Like, we can't be friends. Why? Because you want this fantasy of like not knowing me. That's weird. So anyway, that was very kind of difficult for me to understand. So anyway, so going back to dating, I remember doing a lot of like fun activities of like not just movies but like actual music things. Oh, there's a fire engine coming behind me. Sorry, you'll see it. Hey guy, how's it going? Um, but anyway, I remember doing like fun activities that included like groups of people. And that's another way people can sort of like have a normal kind of like dating, what is it, comfort, like being comfortable dating. And I've noticed like even now I'm starting to see people on Facebook or whatever talking about, oh, it's so hard to date, it's so frustrating. I go with this guy and then like that person doesn't call me, da da da. And I said to this one person, well, why don't you do something social? Like, why don't you do a meetup where it's like a hiking meetup or playing tennis or doing something like that? Because I remember when I was, again, in my early days, doing like I did a class. I did actually did a tennis class at community college because I love tennis, but I never had people to play with. For some reason, and nobody in my network of friends ever played tennis. And so I decided I was going to take a class because I had like the mornings off. So I met a lot of people that way, just through playing tennis, and actually even like I learned how to do squash, which was kind of cool. Um, so that's another cool way to connect with people on the dating tip is to make it a group thing or make it like sort of a community thing, because that's really how you meet people, right? You don't meet people through texting or through internet or stuff like that. That's kind of a fun way to do it. So I guess I would go into how my wife and I met. We actually met through um, an email. So actually, she was looking for. Well, I guess I should wait until we talk about that together because we're gonna go on the date. We're gonna go on an actual date that someone suggests, um, and then I'll interview her about how we met and how we dated, because I think that probably would make more sense for her to be here, me to actually explain it. But I guess in a nutshell, we met through mutual people, and it took a while because we it kind of had years of like progress, and we didn't even know each other at the time. And actually, she saw me performing. I was doing a show for my job, um, and she was at that event. It was like a film showcase event, and she was there. And she says, "I don't remember you there when I was actually that at that gig." And I was actually dating somebody at the time, which is crazy. So we never connected on that level. So it took us like maybe a couple of years to actually meet each other and like connect. And I was totally innocent how it happened. So it was kind of fun. So anyway, so thinking about my wife and I, we love to do karaoke. That's one of the fun things we do on a date, because it's kind of like, fulfills our goal of being singers, or loving to be singing. Um, and we do that as a family sometimes too. We do little date nights where we'll go to a restaurant, and instead of buying like a full on meal, we'll do apps. Maybe do like we'll try like all their appetizers, especially if it's a really cool restaurant. That's a really fun thing to do. So you try like little small apps. I had a friend actually who did that. He took a he went on a date and they went to different restaurants that day, and they tried all the appetizers, because sometimes you get really fun appetizers with that. So instead of doing a whole meal, sit down, you can do like little tiny things here and there, and then you go to multiple places. So that's kind of fun. Let's see. The one thing I don't necessarily like to do on a date is just sit and stare at something else. So whenever it's something like watching a movie, or um, going to a play or doing like that. I love plays. I love going to movies, but I never thought of it as a date. I always thought a date is something that you do that's interactive, with your partner. So I always like to do things that are like part of an event, or part of learning more about that person, or connecting more about that person. So I think it's important to always have that. So anyway, so before I end this, I'll reach out to you again. So, what? First of all, in the comments, put what was your best first date, and then I want you to give me suggestions. Well, that'll probably fulfill the suggestions, I guess. Is to say, okay, on this date I did this and this and this. Okay, and then what I'll do is I'll maybe put together a list of the best ones, and I'll talk to my wife about it, and we'll go on one of those dates. So I have to plan this date within this week. So try to get your comments in the next couple of days. All right, guys, that was fun.